Yes, it's another edition of Empty the Bench. It's episode number 72. Tom Albano here, along with Nick Morgasen. No Nick Fodera with us this week. We got a lot of topics to talk about this week, and just a lot of potential blow-ups, let's say.
Oh, this is going to be, if you were looking for fireworks, I mean, I know it's not 4th of July, but there's definitely going to be a lot of fireworks.
Yeah, in particular to one of our top stories that we'll be talking about. But in addition to our top stories, we'll be talking about the MLB, bringing back the 7-inning doubleheader and a runner on second, which joy. We'll talk about some unfortunate and controversial circumstances, the Britt Reed situation, and what the NTSB said. But first, let's talk about, and very, very quickly, it's not really going to be part of the show, but because we are a weekly show, we would be remiss if we did not mention, despite all the stuff that we did for already on Sunday, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeating the Kansas City Chiefs to win Super Bowl 55.
Yeah, and this game was a total abomination. We didn't think the Chiefs were going to come out and score 9 points, and we didn't
Zero touchdowns.
Zero touchdown, and we didn't. And according to Gronk, they should have signed the streaker that ended up on the field because at least he scored a touchdown.
So basically, it was a game where, like we just said, I think we expected a good game. If it was a one-sided domination, we kind of figured it would be the other way around. We didn't even expect a one-sided domination. I don't think, like, when we went into it, I had said, never really bet against Tom Brady, even though I went with the Chiefs because they were my preseason pick. But I said if this game was going to be like 34-31 Chiefs, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like 34-31 Bucks. I mean, I got the Bucks as a 31 right, but I don't think anybody across this sports media world projected that the Chiefs would only score 9 points and on 3 field goals, and that would be all of their offense, basically.
Yeah, this was one of those odd games where you're like, okay, it's so easy to bet against Tom Brady because he's 43 years old, and you don't know how Gronk's going to be, which, by the way, Gronk had 2 touchdowns. And
I gotta say, it's debatable. Gronk should have been the MVP of this game.
Yeah, and I'm so tired of this whole the quarterback is always the MVP of the game. We all know that's a typical thing where people say, oh, well, my team won. It's obviously the quarterback who deserves to be the MVP. And I'm like, no, not necessarily. I mean, the running game was good. The defensive game was amazing. They held Patrick Mahomes, even though Patrick Mahomes had a turf toe injury, and you could tell that he was obviously laboring around on that toe.
Yeah, but on the flip, you have Tom Brady, who, Tom Brady, there's a report out there, was dealing with some sort of foot injury himself.
I think it was like either a knee or a leg, and he had to get surgery after the Super Bowl, which, by the way, I think Tom Brady created a new sport called Lombardi tossing.
Yeah. We'll get into the Lombardi tossing a little bit. I feel like that's appropriate to maybe talk about at the end, considering all the sadness and all the bad stuff that we're going to be talking about. We're going to leave a very bad taste in your mouth that we'll need to rinse off.
Yeah, especially, I mean, a lot of times we've talked about Nick and yourself in the journalism industry jobs getting cut. Now it's my turn in the business of
Before we
media.
get to that, however, we have some. Let's give you an appetizer of pissed offness, Mr. NBA. Let's talk about the NBA in 2 fronts, in 2 controversies. First, the whole thing with the Dallas Mavericks and the national anthem, and then as part of that, as related to that, the desire to get all fans back in across all arenas across the nation.
Excuse me. So we find out a news report that Mark Cuban has come out and said, you know what? I'm not going to play the national anthem at home games this season just because I don't want to offend anybody. And with the climate that the NBA is in, and I've said this a million times, and Tom, it'll sound like a broken record all over again. We're talking about a progressive league in the NBA.
A player-driven league.
A player-driven progressive league.
In which, let's face the reality, most of the players in that league are not of Caucasian race.
Right. And it's when I saw this story come out and Mark Cuban, and of course it would be Mark Cuban. That's like Jerry Jones in the NFL, where he would make a progressive decision. It must be something in the water in Dallas, by the way.
And I was gonna say, but do you think Mark Cuban's progressive decisions are a little more believable than Jerry Jones's?
I mean, Mark Cuban will follow along the road a lot sooner than Jerry Jones. Mark Cuban has done many things to the point where Adam Silver or rest in peace David Stern, when he was the commissioner of the NBA, had to kind of watch what was going on with Mark Cuban because he'd be sitting in the front row behind the benches yelling at the referees, getting fined $250,000 for berating the officials. So this doesn't surprise me that now I don't understand because, and I'll get to the second part of the story in a second, which is that he apparently didn't say that he was canceling the national anthem. But first, so he comes out, they're not playing the national anthem at the Dallas Maverick home games. That causes a controversy. And everyone is like, what are you doing? Why are you not playing this? This is a time when we all need to be unified. Why are we separating people? And then it comes out afterwards. Oh, I never said that.
Classic walk back my statement.
Well, basically, this is what I like to say in the Nick Fodera sense. No hablo inglés. Basically, where, I never said that. I don't know what you're talking about.
And the whole reason that they said, well, first of all, I mean, at the rate that we're going with national anthem controversies, you know, I'm one for progressive, but I'm one who, you know, stands for the anthem. At the rate that we're going, why can't we just, across all sports, it seems like we'll go to the whole thing that the NFL originally did, and with keeping players in the locker room while the anthem is played?
Yeah, why can't we just be fair to everybody? Why don't we represent all races, all religions, all thoughts that people have, rather than saying, I don't like you.
Although honestly, as somebody who follows the MMA world, and again, I will get to that in a little bit with the whole cut situation, that the UFC does not play any anthem before its cards because, because it's an international sport. You have fighters from all across the globe.
And you know what's funny about that?
All over the globe.
Excuse me. You know what's funny about that is Dana White is kind of like Mark Cuban in the sense of Dana White doesn't care what people think. He does what he wants, and that's it.
I would say maybe that's a good comparison, but in terms of like his attitude, I'd compare him more to Jerry Jones than I would to Mark Cuban.
Oh, definitely. I agree that Dana will basically come out and say, I'm doing this. I don't care what people think of me. And if you don't like it, F you. Like,
but yeah, I was gonna say at the rate that we're going, why not just leave everybody in the locker room while the anthems are being played?
Well, this is what happened with the NFL when the players, when this whole thing happened with the Black Lives Matter movement, people were like, don't play the anthem. We don't, or if you're going to kneel, stay in the locker room. And Roger Goodell totally effed that one up to the point where we couldn't decide, are we supposed to be out on the field before the game or are we not supposed to be on the field? So there was kind of walk back here because, like I said,
absolutely, I saw the statement that Mark Cuban said that there was absolutely a walk back.
And Mark, you got to control your statements. I mean, don't get me wrong. Mark Cuban is good for the NBA because he's driving that sport. He's promoting the sport.
No, but I was gonna say, don't say that. Don't walk it back. Admit it. Like, we have to bow to what the NBA says. We have to bow to what Adam Silver says. Don't walk it back that you never said it.
Right. And on top of that, like, does that mean now, because of the effed up cancel culture that goes on in this world, like, should we cancel Mark Cuban because of all, like, no, but I'm just saying, like, I'm throwing
this is going to be washed on. This is going to be washed under and like by next week.
I wouldn't cancel Mark Cuban. I'm just throwing out that dumb stereotypical speculation that people make when people do dumb things. Like, and I know this isn't sports, but Gianna, how do you say her last name?
Gina Carano,
who came out and made her statements. She was in the MMA UFC, right?
She was in the MMA, yeah. Okay, so of course Gina Carano was an actress on The Mandalorian who got booted after making a tweet that basically compared Republicans living in the Biden era America to Jews in the Holocaust, which, God, that's fucking wrong to say.
That's so ridiculous. Like, and you know what? And she should have been canceled because you can't make a statement like that, unfortunately. Like,
Oh, it's not so much canceled. That's apprehensive. If she hadn't tweeted that out, she'd be still on the Mandalorian.
but the problem is in the NBA, going back to where we are in the sports world, if LeBron James makes a statement that's completely out of context, nothing would happen to him. Nothing. Because he's the star, he's the market leader of the NBA. They can't make money without him.
Are you referring to like a few years ago when he posted those rap lyrics to his Instagram story? Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen to him.
Unfortunately, there are certain people who seem to get away with stuff, whether they're offensive or not, because they are the celebrity.
Look at Tiger Woods, for crying out loud, with all the stuff that went on with him. He freaking was sleeping around, cheating on his wife, and somehow, hey, Nike, we'll let you back in the picture. We'll take you back. So, obviously, if you're the big name in sports, no one cares if you lie, cheat, or steal at this point. But,
so let's talk about the reasoning, though, that the NBA wants the anthems played. It is because they are on a mission, basically, to get fans back across all arenas. Now, there are plenty of arenas still in the NBA which aren't allowing fans back in. I think the Celtics or the Lakers, because I remember turning on the NBA game yesterday and I saw the tarp across all the seats. Are they?
They're trying major market now. We could talk about the whole Governor Cuomo. People who are not from New York, Governor Cuomo.
So based here in New York, and I guess as part of this whole NBA thing, the Governor Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo here in New York, has announced that basically a limited number of 10% of fans can be allowed back into arenas later this month for Knicks games, Rangers games, and Nets games at Madison Square Garden and the Barclays Center, respectively.
So, yeah, we're talking about...
And in the once baseball gets underway, Yankee Stadium and Citi Field.
We're talking about roughly 2,000 fans.
2,000 fans, about 1,500 to 2,000 fans roughly for the basketball and the hockey games, about 5,000 for the baseball games.
And I guarantee you that with Major League Baseball, which we'll get to later, one point I'll appetize it here is these sports need the fan gates. Otherwise, they're not going to make the money they need necessary. Now, people are going to say, oh, don't forget the TV contracts. Well, the TV contracts are only one thing for all sports.
But I think the TV contracts are worth a little more than the gate. And plus, you have the whole thing of we'll get into that a little. Actually, you know what? No, because the NBA is here. Well, I'll say it here. Okay, so we have, if you know I'd say for those of you who aren't in the know of New York has been having some struggles when it comes to handing out the vaccines. Now, blame who you want with that. Blame whatever politician you want with that. But it just sounds so hypocritical that, we don't have enough people. We don't have enough vaccines to give appointments to the people. People are struggling to get vaccines, even those in that first, few categories that can get the vaccines now, are struggling. They've jumped, not they've jumped, but they've pretty much forced the restaurant workers now in that same rate because, all of a sudden now we got to have indoor dining and everything now this weekend. I'm just saying, so we have all these struggles to get the vaccine and everything and hand it out, but we can have indoor dining.
Well, no, because they wanted to be open by Valentine's Day. They wanted 25% capacity.
At the same rate. But 2,000 to 5,000 fans can go to a basketball game. Or
it doesn't make sense. The numbers don't make sense. And we're not a politics show, but the point I'll make is that we found out in New York, and I'm sure it's happening in other states, that some of the nursing home data was hidden. So we didn't know actually how many people were holding the virus. And
I'd say I won't go that way, but I'm just saying it makes no sense that in a time where we're still trying to get the vaccine out to people, and I'll say I don't know how it is in other states, but like here in New York, the average ordinary citizens aren't eligible to get the vaccine yet, but all of a sudden we can have 2,000 people in the arenas. I mean, they say that they're going to have masks, they're going to enforce social distancing, and I believe you have to have a negative test 72 hours out of
3 days. Yeah,
3 days out of coming into the arena. But it just, from a principle standpoint,
how do you enforce that though? Like you said,
I was going to say, when the Buffalo Bills, when they allowed fans into the Bills stadium for their playoff game, I said, how are you going to be able to enforce all that? I don't think you can't. I mean, look at the Super Bowl. We ended up having a streaker on the field. How are you going to? I say, if you can't control that, how can you control people wearing masks and social distancing?
I'll give you another example. When the NBA arenas started to open again, and they were allowing some fans, the Miami Heat, they brought in COVID sniffing dogs, which kind of confused me. And I started to do some research on it, that apparently they smell like sweat that was in like a sample, and that's how they can figure out if someone has COVID. But what happens, and this is like if you get a false positive, what happens if the dog alerts accidentally?
Sucks for you, I guess.
I'm just saying there's no perfect science to this whole thing.
I was going to say, and they say 72 hours, after, 72 hours out that you have to have a negative test. What if you catch the COVID the day before? Then what you're doing is you're going into the arena. You get what I mean? Like,
yeah,
this is not an exact science that they're doing.
There's no science. The whole COVID thing, the country unfortunately was not prepared for this whole COVID thing, including the world of sports, where fans and athletes and sponsors and advertisers all work together under the same roof, and they can't control it because they don't know when people actually have it.
And as much as we give credit to Adam Silver for being for the NBA, I mean, credit to Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, for being a seemingly progressive commissioner. He has made some awful decisions during this season.
You mean like the potential rumor that they were going to jump the line for the COVID vaccines?
And just the simple fact that they're not in a bubble.
Well, and it's funny because Nick says this all the time, and I think he's right. Like, I knew it. We should have never left the bubble, because if we all remember correctly, we need like one of those things in the movie where you can flash back to a time when things
were... even if they didn't do the bubble, why can't they do something like like the NHL?
I was just going to say that
the NHL has their COVID problems, but at least they're region locked. Only East teams are only playing East teams. Central teams are only playing Central teams. The Canadian teams are locked in, battling each other. I mean, even with the MLB, I know the MLB, we're going to have a situation potentially like the NBA, but at least for spring training, they've divided everybody up. They've taken like 5 or 6 teams, put them in a group and said, okay, you guys are only going to play each other. You're not going to play. It's not going to be a normal spring training.
I'll give you another example, and we don't talk a lot of tennis on here, but the Australian Open, which is going on right now, they just had a hard COVID lockdown after 12 a.m. Australian time, because they had a COVID cluster breakout right near where the courts are. Mm-hmm. And they basically said for 5 days they cannot have any fans. They were filling the arenas with fans because Australia was handling it better than this effing country who couldn't figure out how to do it right. So, and I'm sorry, but that's true. All the countries outside of us have been handling the COVID situation better. It's not a me BSing on politics. It's a fact. Look at the numbers. So, I don't know.
What a really bad situation for the NBA. It's amazing how much controversy they've put themselves in when they had a chance to basically jump over baseball and football with all their controversies to become the number one sport in America. They're trending in that direction. I think they're hurting themselves now with that in that regard.
I'm surprised, though, even though you and I have criticized this big time, I'm surprised that they haven't paid the money to force the players to take the vaccines.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised we haven't done a rant in which we pretty much kicked the NBA coverage off our show for that.
I'm getting close to it, and I'm the one, and both the guys know that I'm the NBA savant. I'm the one who likes the NBA, and I'm willing to kick it to the effing curb if they do that.
I agree. I suggested that. I'm surprised that you went along with it, Nick. I think I might have lost Nick here.
News to share. As of today, Empty the Bench will no longer be a sports talk show. This was a tough decision, but due to the ignorance of some greedy billionaire with the last name Bell, hundreds of employees will now be faced with the sudden reality of their unemployment. We want to thank our 3 hosts, as well as Facebook, for putting up with our shenanigans, and all the advertising partners that we don't have. Most of all, we'd like to thank you, the fans. And if there's one thing to leave on, it's to say, go yourselves with a rake. The new format will debut next Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The preceding announcement has been made without the consent of Tom Albano, Nick Fodera, and Nick Morgasen.
Nick, did we just get fired on the air?
I don't know. Did we?
We might have. What the hell?
Wait, what? Where did that announcement come from?
I don't know. We got interrupted. Just like TSN 1040 in Vancouver did. I'd say the only difference is we're back, I guess, and we're not airing some Get Up, all of a sudden replacing our local host. It's okay. I think you all know where we're going with this one.
Yeah. So TSN, and this one hurts me because it's mostly in the radio business. There was some TV, and Tom will tell you a little bit more about the TV, but I know mostly about the radio. So TSN 1040, and there was a bunch of other stations.
This is specifically more Bell Media. This is Bell Media companies in Canada that include like 8 radio stations, TV newsrooms across Canada, I guess online publications as well, because it's media, and I guess all of them have online sites. So across the nation, across all those platforms, cuts everywhere over the past week, especially at, like we said, TSN, which it closed down 3 sports stations, at least, like Vancouver, Winnipeg, and I believe Hamilton were the 3. And it was an absolutely brutal cuts across the board. For those of you who follow sports in Canada, you may know Jay and Dan. Actually, here in America, you may know Jay and Dan from when FS1 first started.
That failed attempt that FS1 made to make comedy into their own version
of Sports Center, basically, their version of Sports Center. And then they ended up going back to TSN. But basically, Jay and Dan have been long-running hosts of Canada's version, TSN's version of Sports Center, because TSN is basically the ESPN over there. And Dan was let go. A producer who has worked with Jay and Dan since they started in 1996 was let go. And a writer, and this one's going to hurt, I believe it was a writer, who he and his wife had given birth to a baby just like mere weeks ago, was canned as well.
Yeah.
Jay is the only one left of that crew.
Yeah, this whole thing, and I swear to you, I almost broke out in hives and in a rash, because the only reason that I'm one of the better people to talk about this, I'm in the radio business. I just left my job because of some situations that are going on in the radio business. I worked in the New York radio market for over 3 years. And the way this business is going right now, unfortunately, is down a trash heap, down a trash chute.
Do you want me to play the audio of how the TSN audience was informed of this decision?
Before you let me set this up. So,
okay.
So the way that this announcement went down is, I think it was during the morning show slots around 9:30 a.m.
Yeah, so during the morning show, things were going on as normal. At around 9 o'clock, the feed to the normal morning show of TSN 1040 in Vancouver goes out. A voice comes on to say, please tune in at 9:30 for an announcement regarding the future of the station or something like that. Between 9 and 9:30, they actually air ESPN radio programming, which is why I said, what would they be airing then? Probably like Get Up or something like that.
Well, they were airing some TV stuff. I think they also have access to the national radio feed, so they could do that also. Some were airing something called Funny, which is a comedy feed, which, again, I'll get into why that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so 9:30 comes around, and here's what TSN 1040 in Vancouver played and went out to the air to its audience and its employees, technically, by that nature.
We have some news to share today about changes to our programming. As of today, CKST will no longer be a sports talk radio station. This was a difficult decision, but the realities of the quickly evolving broadcast media landscape in Canada have made this change unavoidable. We want to thank our on-air personalities, advertising partners and sponsors, and everyone who has contributed to this station. But especially, we want to thank you, our listeners. Our work here at TSN 1040 was driven by our passion to bring you the very best sports, news, and discussion. We sincerely appreciate the time you spent with us. You can continue to find TSN sports content on the iHeartRadio Canada platform and on TSN, tsn.ca, and the TSN app. The new format of the station will be launched this Friday at 7 a.m. Thank you again for your loyalty over the years.
Wait for it. Now that is what you can say. That last bit is what you call a kick.
Now, for licensee purposes, we can't play the rest of what you were about to hear. So basically, at the end of that fucked up ad, I'm sorry, but this really got me angry, is they play Good Riddance, Time of Your Life by Green Day after they just fired hundreds of people.
I was going to say, which, if you know the song Good Riddance, Time of Your Life, it is a very sentimental song, yes, but the title of it, Good Riddance, when you're firing people.
And you know what's even worse? And I don't know, which side do I want to take first? One, the song is fucked up, that you just fired hundreds and hundreds of people who just lost their job on the spot. Two, they had 30 minutes to grab all the shit in their office and get out.
Reportedly, yeah.
What is this, beat the clock? Like, what is going on here? And you know what? And this is why, like, I'm going...
Actually, and not all the employees knew of what was going on. Well, I remember reading some stories about how some employees didn't know until that announcement played or until they got some sort of text. Like, I remember, because as I follow James Lynch, so the Canadian MMA writer, and I mean, not Canadian MMA journalist. And basically, he was liking stories because he actually has some connections. He listened to TSN 1040 just about every day. He's been on Canadian radio back in the day, I think, on the TSN network. And basically, apparently some people would text their coworkers, oh, I'm so sorry about what happened. And they would get back a response like, what happened? TSN and Bell Media elected to basically not even tell their employees until it was time.
You want to know how some of the people found out? You know how I don't know if you've been inside a ton of radio stations, but like for me, when I worked at the radio station, they had speakers in the wall so you could hear outside the studio. So you could
hear the station.
Right. So some people found out from the speakers in the wall when they heard the announcement. No warning, no message, no email, right from the speaker in the ceiling.
What a fucked up organization. I'm sorry for my French, but what a fucked up thing.
They are. And I can attest right from working in the business that the radio business is a sketchy, unfortunate business. And I'm not saying you shouldn't go into it because there are some nice people.
I'm actually going to, I think, Nick, you are being very, because when you were promoting this episode, you mentioned just Bell Media about how bad they are. I'm actually going to take your 2 points. I'm going to extend it further. I think the media world is an absolutely fucked up industry everywhere.
That's true. I mean, we've talked about content farms forever on this show when it came to what were some of the ones we were talking about?
Well, there was the whole thing about Sports Illustrated trying to become a content farm.
No, but there was Sports Illustrated, there was SB Nation, there was just all the ones where they take people's content and basically put it on their own site. Now, in the radio business, it's all about syndication and airing shows, and they don't want to produce local content because why would they, God forbid, want to spend money on it? So this is making it worse. Because in Canada, they basically cut out all the local content in Canada, and they're airing syndicated formats. So they're just taking the local out of local content.
Or in the case of 1040 Vancouver and a couple other stations you mentioned before, turning the format to comedy.
I'm going to say one thing right now, and Nick said this in other pre-show meetings. The comedy format does not work on terrestrial radio. It just does not. There's one place that the comedy format works, and it's at Sirius XM. That's it. Because they have a category and they have a market that they charge for.
I mean, Sirius XM, they, like you said, they have the big comedy names. They have the big comedy specials, the audio version. I mean, that's the thing. Like all the stuff that, the Canadian markets that are now going to air comedy, I bet it's just all audio versions of stuff you can find on YouTube or something like that, or on Netflix.
And by the way, and I'm taking these classes in social media, learning about the market, and I've known about a lot of this stuff before. You have to understand your market. TSN 1040 was a sports market.
I would say, and yes, I understand that TSN 1040 and a couple of others didn't exactly have the best of ratings, but I mean, like I said before, this was not just the sports world. Like we're talking about the sports world because we're a sports show, but this was across everything, including newsrooms, which goes back to the point what you said. You're cutting out that local element.
Well, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's why radio is dying, including the place I used to be at.
That's why the media industry is dying.
Well, the media industry is dying because all they're doing is taking syndicated content and in exchange for barter ads, which is what they're doing.
And you want to know the fucked up part about this? This is also an organization, Bell Media, who the week prior put out their annual Bell Let's Talk.
All right, so context is necessary. Explain because I saw you tweeting about this at first. So tell everybody what that's about.
So I loved Bell Let's Talk because Bell Let's Talk was basically, it was their campaign of promoting mental health and the importance of mental health. Because mental health, especially during the time of the COVID pandemic, is basically in crisis mode. It was already seemingly in crisis mode, and now it's just really bad. And Bell Let's Talk basically for every time the hashtag Bell Let's Talk was tweeted, a certain amount was donated to, I believe, a mental health based nonprofit or charity. And it's amazing how fucked up this is, because the week after you do this, you put your own, you basically inflict people with mental health.
You fired 300 to 400 people. You fired more than ESPN did when they went through their cuts.
Yeah, I was gonna say you basically inflicted mental health. What's the word?
Awareness?
No, stress.
Oh, you basically mean stress levels are higher, so to speak.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say basically you hurt other people's mental health when you did this. So absolutely hypocritical. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Nick. Though, like I was just referring to, the media industry doesn't give a fuck about its employees and mental health. It doesn't. I'm sorry.
They don't.
I can even attest from my own experiences. I'd say this industry doesn't give a flying fuck about its people. It doesn't give a flying fuck.
It doesn't. And unfortunately, that's why I'm trying to make the transition away from radio into social media, because that's a popular trend.
But let's talk about like the mental health stresses that come with this. I mean, I remember reading something recently, which I think I read back in 2017 or 2018 when this happened. Hurricane Harvey down south here in the U.S. Pretty much journalists were, getting, some form of PTSD levels because of all this stuff that they had to see, because of all the people that they had to interview. And some people didn't have the experience, and editors were just like, oh, you know what, go out there and, just do your job. pretty much putting people on the spot, which, I understand that you have a job to do as a journalist. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, some people aren't exactly prepared for this. Like, you got to do a job of preparing your people to being able to cover this stuff.
No one is prepared for a natural disaster. I mean, you can be, but there's certain natural disasters you can't be prepared for. But at the same time, these companies are saying, screw you, we're going to throw you out in the middle of the storm, and you have to do your job if you want to make a living. And
if you're talking about, you want to talk about making a living, look at some of the paychecks that you get in this industry. Look at how many of these places, and I work for one of them, which, I love the site that I write for, but let's face it. And I'm saying it's not just exclusive to them and to the content farms, but across like newspapers and everywhere, this turned to the independent contractor.
Well, I'll point out one thing to you as well. I working at a place for 3.5 years, and both you guys know this. I probably was way underpaid for the amount of work that I was doing, the amount of hours I was putting in. And on top of that, I probably was working full-time hours on top of being a part-timer.
I know how you feel.
No, I know. I'm just making the point. In this radio business, they don't give a flying fuck whether you should be full-time, whether you should have benefits, whether you're being treated normally.
I have a full-time job to basically, balance out, so I can make a living, but still cover, what I love to do. And what's the fucked up part? There's elements of the full-time job that I love more than the industry that I worked my ass off towards.
That's what's unfortunate about
this. They fucking care.
And that's the weird thing. Like, at one point, there were weeks that I worked over 40 hours as a part-time employee. That should not happen. That doesn't happen in any other industry. That doesn't happen anywhere else. In the radio business, they can take advantage of you. That's why they get away with it.
And you have to deal with, because let's face it, there are media spaces across the nation that lean one way or another. So you have to deal with that bias. You know that very well. You also have to deal with, all the constant pressure of deadlines, everything. You have to deal with, not making mistakes, dealing with the fucking, I'm just face it. Maybe it's just the field that I'm in with the MMA industry and the professional wrestling industry, but the actions of some journalists and the actions of some people like fighters and promoters and everything. And you have to try to, you can't defend it. And it's like, you question why you're even in this industry. And let's face it, some of the fans and the consumers, especially on social media, aka Twitter, are just absolutely fucking brutal. Honestly, this whole week between, the Gina Carano controversy and all the stresses that, that I've had to deal with some certain situations outside, into my personal life. I'm not going to go into those.
Yeah.
I question if this industry is even fucking worth it. I'm sorry. Well, I don't even know if I want to be here in 5 years.
Well, when you have, I don't disagree with you. That's why I'm trying to move on into social media, because there's more apt to gain from there than the radio business. But it's unfortunate when you have guys like Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, who are the leading content farmers making $6 to $10 million a year. You question yourself, like you and Nick, who work really hard to earn your master's degrees in journalism. Can you really get where you need to get when those people are at the top of the mountain, so to speak?
Fuck this industry, man. Fuck
it.
Fuck it. All right, moving on. Let's just get through these stories pretty quick. So MLB. So negotiations with MLB and the MLBPA. I don't think we really need to state that relationship and beat that dead horse 1,000 times over. But some agreements have come to. The 7-inning doubleheaders will return. Yay!
Great.
The runner on second base is going to return. This extra inning, an extra inning is the runner on second base starting with it. Whoop-de fucking new.
Oh, we're Little League Baseball. That's what we are right now.
But the National League designated hitter is not going to return.
You know what? And I'm so tired of this argument with the designated hitter. Who wants to see the freaking pitcher hit? No one. And Anthony, who you know is a Met fan, he's it adds more strategy. Fuck the strategy. I don't care.
Here's the thing. I like the NL style of play, or I should say I respect it. But the problem here is, I would say, well, you were talking about who wants to see the pitcher hit. Growing up, you see the pitchers hit in Little League baseball, in high school baseball. The problem is you're giving the general managers and these teams are giving these pitchers all this money.
Hundreds of millions. Yeah.
That if they try to hit, everyone freaks the fuck out. When pitchers go up to the plate, what is the one thing that you hear all the time?
I hope you don't want them swinging is one.
That's what I'm saying, especially with the American League teams. You tell them, especially if these guys don't have hitting experience, you tell them, just take the strikeout.
Which is so ridiculous because that's just like a waste of time up at the plate.
Now, there are certain pitchers who can hit, given the opportunity. Like, didn't Syndergaard hit a home run at some point?
Yeah, but you're talking about like the Dontrelle Willises or the CC Sabathias back in the day who were good hitters. Apparently, they hit home runs. I mean, and then you had the one rarity where I think Felix Hernandez homered off of Johan Santana for a grand slam.
Bartolo Colon.
Bartolo Colon in San Diego, yes. And I don't know. It's a waste of time. I'm tired. I'd rather see an extra hitter in the lineup.
I'd say if they really didn't want it to return, fine. But then why are we bringing back the 7-inning doubleheader, and why were we bringing back the runner on second base? If the NLDH can't return, those two shouldn't either.
It probably has to do with the COVID concerns in case games go long, or if they have rain delays or rain outs, I should say.
But it ruins the game.
Of course it ruins the game. We all know. The only one who, there's one person who doesn't realize this is all ruining the game.
Rob Manfred.
Thank you. It's only Rob Manfred who, for some reason, who used to be on the top of my list of commissioners in sport, is now dropping off the mountain.
Also, if we're going to talk about the NL and the DH and debate and everything, when this really came into fruition, like really became a thing? When the Astros got moved from the National League to the American League. Because honestly, and I will say this, I know interconference rather, when it comes to the other sports leagues here in America, happen all the time and, during the season.
Well, you and I discussed this.
I'd say, but baseball, even though it was only 1 month of interleague games back in the day before that, I always looked forward to interleague month. It was special.
You're talking about, I think it was May, right?
May through June, yeah.
And what people didn't realize is back in the day, the reason the whole interleague idea came to be is because you got to see guys in cities that you didn't really see all year unless they made the playoffs of the World Series.
Well, prior to 1997, there was no such thing as interleague play. The American League teams only played the American League teams, and the National League teams only played the National League teams. The only exceptions were the All-Star Game and the World Series.
Right.
I was saying from 1997, the interleague month basically came to be. And you know what? For that 1 month, it was kind of cool. It was
you got to see the stars from the other leagues that you didn't get to see.
Right. And you got to see, when the NL team have to use the designated hitter, you got to see the American League team have to change it up in order to have that pitcher hit. I know Big Papi was always a designated
playing first base when they went to the National League ballpark.
Right. I like that month. Because it was kind of the best of both worlds. It was kind of, you had the National League mostly do its National League thing with the pitchers hitting. You had the American League do its American League thing, the focus on the power, the designated hitter effect. But it's for that 1 month, the injury concerns about the pitchers hitting could still be there. But for that 1 month, it was a special time. Now.
Right, because you're colliding two different leagues with different rules. But the problem you have now with the way interleague is played, because now it's played all year. And actually, to respond to that comment you made earlier about the Astros, you were asking me why did they move the Astros away from the National League?
Because they wanted a perfect balance, but it made interleague less special.
Right. But they didn't want to have two teams forced to sit out because of the unbalance of the leagues. So that's one reason why they did it. But like you said, now that you have an even league, now you have to play interleague all year round. And unfortunately, I think that actually takes some significance away from the All-Star game as well.
Definitely.
If you're playing interleague all year round, because who cares if you're going to see half the year in interleague? Who cares about the All-Star game anymore? Who cares about the World Series actually anymore?
I mean, the World Series. I mean, that's the championship of the championship.
No, but I'm saying like if eventually when the DH comes in, and I think eventually, even though these two sides, Major League Baseball and the MLBPA, who are button heads like it's no tomorrow, and they act like two immature 3-year-olds who are crying for their mommy, but that's a whole different situation. But I think eventually what's going to happen is you're going to see a permanent DH in the next couple of years. I don't know when, but then you're going to have an issue with the World Series because then you're not going to go to the National League City, have the have the pitcher hitting, and it kind of takes away the format of the World Series if that happens.
I'll say, you know what I think would be a lot easier? Just add two teams. I mean, just add two teams, to one of the leagues, and let's go back to the old system, interleague system.
Well, they're talking. What was it? Nashville was supposed to be the next city that they were going to add a team to, and
for whatever reason, I don't see for whatever reason, obviously hockey, the Seattle Kraken is going to start next season. The NBA has talked about adding a team to each conference to give it 32 teams.
They're talking about going to Seattle again.
Right. The NFL, I mean, I'll say the NFL, the MLB and NFL for expansion are pipe dreams compared to the NBA and NHL.
Yeah. I don't know. Major League Baseball needs to get its shit together between the two sides. And by the way, I've made publicly clear. Tony Clark is the worst MLB head.
What did I say last week? I said the last 2 weeks, actually, that baseball's credibility was 0. And if they lost the 2022 season, I'd say not part. Like, if a strike happens, it's going to hurt. But at least in part, if, it's like last season, at least we still get something. If they lose it completely, all of 2022, you're going to see effects worse than 1994. Well, you're going to see such a dip in popularity. And that's why I said I think expansion is a pipe dream right now for baseball.
Well, I made the statement that if we lose 2022, then
it's going to affect 2023 as well.
You might as well just say that 2 years of baseball is down the drain. Because it's like they say, like when NBA had its lockout, or not lockout, but they kind of they had to stay locked out until they could start the season. It affects the whole season, and then you got crappy basketball. You're going to get crappy baseball if you start a season midway when you're not supposed to.
All right, let's run through these next unfortunate stories quickly here. So the NTSB has come out and said that pilot error caused the tragedy involving Kobe Bryant, the helicopter crash. And the report also said that basically there were these, at the time, rumors that Kobe may have pressured the pilot into going into bad weather to get the team to that camp. The report from the NTSB says that was not true. It was simply pilot error and being in a place where he shouldn't have been.
That's even worse. That's even worse that it was pilot error. And I think they also, if I remember correctly, they were talking about that the pilot ended up in a place where he never should have been with.
I just said that.
So I don't know. I feel bad for the Bryant family.
I hope the Bryant family gets everything it can from this helicopter business.
Oh, they're probably going to sue for millions upon millions.
I know lawsuit happened before, a wrongful death suit, but I hope that they got a lot.
And this whole rumor that Kobe pressured the pilot to fly.
You just said not true.
Right. And I don't know. Just very bizarre story.
All right. Another really tragic incident. Of course, we talked about this briefly during the pregame and postgame. Britt Reed, a coach for the Chiefs, the son of Andy Reid, involved in an accident with a 5-year-old girl. I believe both are. The last update I had was both of them were still in critical condition. Are they both still critical?
I think they're still both in critical condition. It doesn't matter. They're 5-year-old kids. It's a terrible situation whether they're critical or not.
I'd say, well, an update to that story, Britt Reed has been dismissed by the Chiefs. There are reports of part of this that maybe Britt Reed was intoxicated, allegedly?
He was intoxicated.
So.
And actually, it's not. He was placed on leave, but his contract was up too.
And just, first of all, on a football standpoint, anyone's blaming this as a reason why the Chiefs were bad. At the end of the day, you still got to play the game. So the Chiefs lost the game. I was like, it wasn't because of this.
Yeah, they didn't lose because of him. They lost because they played like shit.
Right. And, I feel really bad, especially for that 5-year-old girl. I hope she pulls through with this thing. This is sad.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Washington football team. They have settled with the cheerleaders over the whole lewd photo thing, and I just really hate Dan Snyder.
We all hate Dan Snyder. It's not just you. Actually, you know what? I think even Washington hates Dan Snyder.
I
mean,
Lord.
What are you settling on? That's what I want to know.
I was gonna say, I guess some of the cheerleaders were suing the Washington football team over all this controversy, and pretty much, you know what this is? This is go away money.
Pretty much. I mean, I'm rich, so I can just pay off for this.
This is shh, hush, hush.
Shh, nothing happened.
This sports world. I said this media world is fucked up. This sports world is gonna be fucked up, really, too. Really bad. Let's end on a happy note, though. Let's talk about that Lombardi toss.
I love this story.
So Tom Brady, and I have said this ever since he has left the New England Patriots and has left Bill Belichick, he has loosened up a lot, it seems.
Yeah, that's not so much.
Like, he has really, he has become, I'd say arguably, I know Nick Fodera would disagree with me, but a little more likable ever since leaving that place. And obviously, he's led his new team to a Super Bowl in his first year. The celebration was wild. Tampa Bay became the first, team to win a Super Bowl in its home stadium. And the boat parade was absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, my God, yeah. It was crazy. I mean, they're on boats, and basically it's one of those things where I was just like, holy crap, there's fans there. They're not as socially distant as they should be. And
it was really concerning on that end. The post-game celebration. I didn't really see any photos from the crowds at that boat celebration. I just saw that all the players on the boats, that was all. In which Lombardi tossing took place, in which Tom Brady tossed the Super Bowl trophy to Gronk, who, if you remember, a few years ago, Gronk had a little incident in which he dropped the Super Bowl trophy.
He's lucky he didn't drop this one this time. And by the way, I want credit for this hashtag because no one else did this except me. Even though I don't know if it really caught on, but I was like, we're going to create a new sport out of tossing the Lombardi trophy.
Cameron Brate, the third string tight end in Tampa, basically said when the Super Bowl trophy was tossed to him, he's like, if I don't catch this thing, I might as well retire.
That was bad. I was just like, what is going on here? We're tossing Lombardi trophies. We're on boats.
Brady, he came off the boat. He was drunk as hell. Took so much tequila.
Drunk Tom Brady was trending on Twitter during the Super Bowl parade.
And as much as I know people don't like Tom Brady, can we please grow up? He won a Super Bowl. He was in the middle of celebrating. Don't come after him.
He didn't just win. He annihilated.
Right. No, but I'm saying, like, everyone's saying, oh, you're a bad example, blah, blah, blah. Shut up.
Yeah, I mean, just stop. I mean, like, I'm a Jet fan, and I realize he won the Super Bowl. Okay? Like, get over it.
You win the championship of your league, you're going to be celebrating.
I mean, and I hate to say this as a Jet fan, but he's probably the greatest NFL player of all time with 7 rings.
You know what he's done? He's at the very least shown that he wore the pants in that relationship in New England.
He's got more rings than the Patriots now.
He's got more rings than any team in the NFL, period.
You know, trust me, I don't like it, but you're not going to hear me going around saying, you fucking asshole, whatever you, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I don't know.
All right. What an episode. A whole lot of ranting, a whole lot of sadness. But at least we had Lombardi tossing.
We've got Lombardi tossing, yes!
So make sure to like us here on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. You see our social media handles down there for Twitter.
Yeah.
On ETB Sports, pretty much everywhere, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And yeah, so tune in next week for another edition of Empty the Bench. Until then, I'm Tom Albano, along with Nick Morgasen, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.